You guys know Taysom Hill is, right? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, money launderer, H-back, and tight end for the New Orleans Saints, and also a 31-year-old rookie quarterback. You might not associate this unheralded player with record-breaking status, as he's only started 5 games as a passer in his NFL career. But on Thursday night against the Dallas Cowboys, he managed to do something that had not happened in the NFL since 1976. It's time to take a seat and immerse yourselves in one of the strangest single-game achievements in NFL history. It's time to climb inside the world of Taysom Hill. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, let's talk about finances. The Saints have given Taysom Hill a couple of weird contract extensions to keep playing football with the organization. See, back in March, they signed him to an extension worth 4 years and $140 million, but like birds, the contract wasn't actually real. It was actually used to free up $7 million worth of cap space for the Saints, and basically it had a bunch of voidable years that resulted in the actual contract being worth 1 year and $12 million. Then in November, they gave him another contract extension worth a minimum of $40 million that could actually be worth upwards of $95 million. And here's how. There's a whole bunch of incentives or stimuluses, it's the same thing really, that could raise the price Taysom commands in the years to come. For 2021, aka this season, he just has to finish with 11 wins, 25 touchdowns, a 65% completion percentage, 600 rushing yards, take 50% of the Saints' offensive plays in the postseason, make a Super Bowl appearance, and win MVP or Offensive Player of the Year. Now, the Saints currently sit at 5-7, and the best record they can finish with is 10-7. So that kind of wipes out the 11-win incentive. At 2 touchdown passes, Hill has 23 more to go, and through the last 5 weeks of any regular season, the most touchdown passes anyone's thrown in that span is 19. Another incentive canceled. Hill just came off a performance where he completed 46% of his passes, so it's likely the 65% completion incentive gets nuked too. Now, Hill may have 205 rushing yards with 5 games left, but he's also coming off the Cowboys game where he rushed for over 100, so hey, the 600-yard incentive is certainly possible. But looking at the postseason Super Bowl MVP and Offensive Player of the Year incentives, do you expect any of these to happen? Probably not. But then again, a kicker once won MVP, so anything is possible, and hey, this is possible too. Maybe. We'll see. Probably not. Then there's also this dissertation from the rest of his contract from 2022 to 2025, where he basically has to play like an MVP quarterback. That's understandable considering he's a 31-year-old backup who's made 5 starts as a quarterback in his NFL career. If you don't watch football at all, let me sum all of this up in a way you will understand. Taysom Hill is a pyramid scheme, but as an athlete. Now, I suppose the Saints' interest in him makes sense considering he can play a multitude of positions and lines up all over the field. He's very exciting as a runner, and as we just saw against the Cowboys, can light up a defense on the ground thanks to his speed and slippery pad level of running. But it also seems like the Saints are taking their cash, spraying it with 87 octane, and lighting a match, burning everything they had saved up for this deal. Having said that, on the night of December 2nd in New Orleans, Louisiana, something different arrived. It was greatness. Greatness arrived. At the end of this game, the Cowboys prevailed 27-17, but Taysom Hill had a one-of-a-kind stat line, the kind that no one should ever see, but also everyone should see. He completed 19 of his 41 pass attempts for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a passer rating of 44.2. This was to say his performance was not very good. It sucked. This on its own is a fascinating stat line, and it's about to get even better. On just 11 carries, Hill rushed for 101 yards, averaging over 9 yards per attempt. If you compare this to the rest of the Saints' run game, which had 25 carries for a combined 52 yards for an average of just over 2 yards per attempt, and this makes for the funniest quarterback stat line I've seen since Jameis Winston's 2019 season. You know, the one where he threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. That was amazing. This is a stat line we need to appreciate because it's a rare crowning jewel of shit. The Saints, as we discussed, lost that game 27-17. But we were all the winners because of the treasured numbers Taysom Hill put up. He became the first quarterback in 45 years to rush for at least 100 yards and throw 4 or more interceptions in a single game. As far as Pro Football Reference's data is concerned, this has only happened twice. That's how rare it is. It should be an impossible stat line, but Taysom Hill turned water into wine with this miracle. Now, I probably know what you're thinking. Who was the first quarterback with the stat line? Excellent question. I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you for asking that question. That quarterback's name was Norris Weiss. In the final week of the 1976 regular season, with temperatures at 23 degrees Fahrenheit and winds approaching 13 miles an hour, Weiss, a rookie for the Denver Broncos, came off the bench against the Chicago Bears after Denver starter Craig Penrose injured himself on his first pass attempt of the game, which was a pick six. Weiss then proceeded to play some amazingly awful football the rest of the way, throwing for 98 yards, a touchdown, and 4 interceptions, while rushing for 120 yards and 20 carries. Yeah. Even considering how different the NFL was back in 1976, and it was different, defenses had more leverage, the refs seemed to respect them more, you'd probably think Weiss's turnovers would prove costly to those Broncos, and you'd be right. It's also opposite day, so that's incorrect. After trailing 14-0 entering the second half, the Broncos scored 28 unanswered points to take home a 28-14 victory at Soldier Field. Norris Weiss couldn't even reach 100 yards passing, threw 4 interceptions, and yet his team still won. What did Taysom Hill's team do with more passing yards and just as many interceptions? Lose, he lost, he was not a winner. How could this have happened? Can we look at what caused it or who caused it? Bears quarterback Bob Avellini was actually in the middle of leading the Bears to a playoff appearance in 1976. His nickname was also Slow-Mo, swear to God, look it up. He also had a nice career, throwing 33 touchdowns to 69 interceptions, and played with the Bears until 1984, where they did absolutely nothing the following year with it. Anyway, back to the game. Avellini had attempted 17 passes in this game, completing 2. 2 completed passes on 17 attempts. That's just barely over 11% of his passes finding a receiver. To make this even funnier, Avellini had completed just as many passes to his receivers as he did to the defense that day. And his approximate 11.8 completion percentage is the 5th lowest from any quarterback with at least 15 pass attempts in a single game. Now, another question I have is, how the hell did Avellini avoid setting the all-time record for lowest completion percentage? On one hand, this is football, and football doesn't make any sense at all, so that probably answers my question. There is no other hand. Norris Weiss threw 4 interceptions without reaching triple digits in passing yards, and he still wasn't the worst quarterback at Soldier Field that day. Best of all, he was able to become the first player with that many picks to break triple digits on the ground. Back in the present day, which is technically the past since this happened a week ago, Taysom Hill became the second player to achieve this worthless stat line. Did he win? No, he didn't. 3 of those 4 interceptions occurred in the fourth quarter on back-to-back-to-back drives. The first interception, taking place in the second quarter, was batted off the hands of receiver Kenny Stills and was miraculously caught by Cowboys safety Jaron Kearse as he dragged his toes on the sideline to stay in bounds. Using instant transmission to teleport to the fourth quarter, we can see that Hill's second interception was tipped at a line of scrimmage and stolen by safety Damontae Kazee, so not really his fault. But then, we get Hill's third interception where he flat out thinks that second-year corner Trevon Diggs is invisible, and this pass doesn't even come close to reaching the corner route. Finally, look at this beautiful, quick reflexed pick six at the line of scrimmage from defensive lineman Carlos Watkins to basically seal the game for the Cowboys. At one point when all of this was going on, this was making Andy Dalton's Thursday night game against the Browns in 2014 look like a masterpiece. You could say two of those interceptions weren't on Hill, and in fairness, he was also playing with a split finger he suffered in the middle of the game. But this isn't the end either. Let's rewind and take a look at some rushing plays. On the Saints' opening drive of the second half, they put together 11 plays, 4 of which involve Hill's rushing ability for a combined 42 yards. Look at this 24-yard run. He avoids getting killed by Micah Parsons in a 5-man rush and goes into absolute beast mode, sprinting into the open like a Mormon gazelle. But you haven't seen anything yet. Witness Taysom Hill on HGH as he takes his third and short QB draw up the middle. Did you see that? Hill just baptized Damontae Kazee into the waters of Lake Minnetonka with a hurdle. It's so graceful, I feel like watching it a third time. With star back Alvin Kamara out due to a knee injury, this was the Saints' next best option in the run game, and what an option it was. Now, as of this writing, only 4 quarterbacks have rushed for 100 yards or more in a game in 2021. They are Lamar Jackson again, Justin Fields, who looks up to Lamar Jackson, and Taysom Hill, who's like Lamar Jackson but sucks. Even with the amazing amass in rushing yards, Hill buried them in a sea of turnovers, entering the last stretch of the game with just a mere touchdown to go along with 4 picks. On the first play from scrimmage following his pick 6, Hill nearly threw his 5th interception as it was dropped by a Cowboys defender. Then on the next play, this happened. For reasons only known to the Dallas Cowboys, they just forgot how to tackle. They let third-year receiver and return specialist Deontay Harris break all sorts of ankles on his way to the house for 70 yards. It's special because of what it did to Hill's stat line. Before it, Hill had attempted 40 passes for 4.9 yards per attempt. That's not good. It's very bad. With this throw, that yards per attempt total rose to 6.4. That's a 1.5 yards per attempt increase. All on a 7-yard slant route on a 2nd and 10 from the 30-yard line. So, what did we learn today? Taysom Hill's performance against the Cowboys won't be remembered as one of the all-time greats. I think even non-football fans could have seen that coming. But it will be remembered as one of the most bizarre stat lines you will ever see from a quarterback. Hell, any player too. To turn the ball over as many times as he did while also rushing for over 100 yards just does not seem possible in any time period, in any stage of NFL history. But it's moments like these where you learn to laugh at the strangest possible outcome. A stat line so bad it somehow becomes good, where a player can put up insane production while also playing like Jared Goff without Sean McVay. Even if Taysom Hill never sees another start in his season or in his career. Something like this is brilliant in the same way Tommy Wiseau's The Room is brilliant. How a quarterback can be so atrocious and so good in the same game just defies anything resembling logic. And in a football season where logic is all but thrown out the window, this is more of the same. Sometimes the most iconic performances aren't always the ones where you throw for 5 touchdowns and lead your team to a blowout victory or squeeze by with a gutsy performance against a tough defense and a close win. Sometimes the most iconic performances come from a combination of freak athleticism and a lot of human error.